It's Joseph P. as in Patrick Mellen, and my rank was yeoman third class. And from there, I believe it was in the latter part of July, 1963, I received orders to report to Newport aboard the USS Keppler. And my first impression when I saw her, she was coming back from a midshipman cruise somewhere up north. And I couldn't believe when I saw her. She looked like the most beat up destroyer I think I'd ever seen. She was covered with oil because they had a problem with one of the hoses broke apparently, and so the ship looked like coated with oil when she pulled into Newport in, like I said, that weekend, in the last weekend of July. So that was my wow, that's the Keppler. This is a destroyer I pictured, because she was quite different from the time she was commissioned, with all kinds of weapons and whatnot, and she was a frame too. And I reported aboard the last day of July, which I think was a weekend. No one was around, so they just told me to go home and come back on Monday, which was August 1st. So I was officially assigned to the Keppler on August 1st. Because they had no place for me in the ship's office, they stuck me in deck force. So I was in First Division for the next 10 or 11 months, just doing what deck seamen do, chipping paint, painting, swabbing the decks, and just kind of learning the basics of what deck seamanship was about. One thing about the United States Navy, I have to say this about the Keppler. I don't know about the other ships. I was on a few of them, but I didn't look around like doing the white glove inspection. She was probably the cleanest ship I've ever seen. How I was introduced to the Keppler was the bosun mate, because I was put up in the forecastle. That was my station, from midships to the forecastle, and maybe the old one level. I can't remember. But my introduction was a 3-inch paintbrush and a 5-ton anchor, painted. So he put me over the side of the stage, and I proceeded to fall in the water. And my life jacket sank faster than me. So I remember that. But that was my introduction to the Keppler. But no, when we were in port, she was always being painted. Even at sea we painted, but you know, navy gray, right? And she was always a clean ship. I was assigned to the handling room under Mount 51, which is the merry-go-round. You know, putting the ammunition and the powder from the merry-go-round into the elevators of the Mount 51. And I think about 4 or 5 months later, they promoted me up into the mount as fuse setter, sight setter. I think it was fuse setter. And I did that until I believe it was August of '64. There was an opening in the weapons, as weapons yeoman, and the fellow was leaving the Navy. I inquired, told him what I'd been doing prior to reporting aboard the Keppler, and he gave me a test, and he liked what he saw. He introduced me to the division officer, Mr. Lenahan. He liked it. He says, okay, the man's getting out, I believe, in 2 weeks, and you'll take over duty as a weapons yeoman. And we did, during the course of this time, from I guess '63 through my time on the Keppler, we did make 7 trips down to Guantanamo Bay. We put on one particular, we put 6 weeks down there for refresher training after Boston. And in one particular trip down there, we spent 28 days on station off Havana, back and forth for 28 days. Just kept bringing out the reefer ship, they brought out the oiler, and kept us going. And we did that for, like I said, 28 days. So we went back to Newport. We were at ASW destroyer, so we mostly, our main function was hunting submarines, which we did a lot of. And also plane guarding, carriers, different carriers. We operated mostly with the USS Wasp. That was CV-18. What do you call it? Let's see. Most of the time I was up and down the East Coast. Caribbean, Guantanamo Bay, Key West, St. Thomas. Where else? We did Jamaica, 3 ports in Jamaica over time. My wife likes to refer to them as my war zone. you know. And I always say my claim to fame was the Cuban Missile Crisis, which I kind of caught the tail end of. But we did chase quite a few freighters, either away from Cuba or out of Cuba, out of Havana. And what do you call it?